That was Kevin, my boyfriend. And I'm Donna, age 16. Education, junior in high school. Status, virgin, and planning to stay that way. Kevin, he really is super. I've never cared about anybody as much as I care about him. We've been going together for almost 6 months now. Getting to know him has been, kind of exciting. He comes on as sort of quiet and serious. It takes a little while to get past that. But when you do, he's more fun to be with than anybody I've ever known. And interesting. I can't believe how much he knows. He's got tons of sex appeal, too. I think when Kevin and I first started seeing each other almost every day, he kind of assumed that the way we felt about each other, we'd wind up having intercourse, sooner or later. He knew me well enough to know it wouldn't be sooner. But he was really kind of surprised when I finally told him how I felt, that I don't intend to have sex with anybody until I'm married. Telling him was kind of scary, because the last guy I told that to, well, he called me a tease and walked out. But I shouldn't have worried about Kevin. What he did was try to understand. We talked about how I felt and how he feels, too. I think as he got to know me, he began to see what I'm like, what I feel, and what I want for my future. I tried to tell him that what I believe may not be right for everybody, but it is for me. So what I finally got was an, okay, I can live with it kind of reaction. He says he understands I have to act according to what I believe, and he respects me for it. You can't help but care a lot about a guy like that.
Values like the ones Donna expresses can be hard to maintain. There are a lot of societal pressures and a lot of popular misconceptions she may have to stand up to. A girl may lose a boyfriend she's interested in by refusing sex. And a boy may have to face feeling insecure when his friends talk about their active sex lives. But life has many difficult choices, and standing up for individual values often involves the willingness to pay the price. We find that young people who delay sex until they're older are just as likely to have a good sexual relationship later on as someone who is sexually active as a teenager, possibly better. As for virginity, there are a lot of myths about that. The fact is, having a good sex life does not depend on having a lot of different sex experiences and partners. It's perfectly possible for two virgins to have a perfectly wonderful sexual relationship. Another popular myth is that you're likely to become frigid or impotent if you don't have sex when you're young. That's not true. In fact, the opposite can be true. Very early sexual experiences can prove so disappointing that they interfere with later sexual fulfillment. And it's also not true that abstaining from sex is somehow unhealthy. The important thing is for each of us to decide, based on our own values, whether having sex is right for us. This is as true for adults as for teenagers.
I've been doing a lot of thinking about why I feel the way I do about sex. You see, I guess you'd say I come from an old-fashioned family. My folks think love is the most important thing in life, and they see sex as the way you express real, deep love. They brought me up to believe I should save sex for the one person I expect to love all my life. My mother says she did. She was a virgin when she married my father, and so was he. She thinks that's one of the things that makes their marriage special. Okay, I'm not saying my parents' way is the only one, but their marriage is what I know. So why shouldn't I feel the way I do? I don't want to make too big a thing of it, but I don't want to do things I'd have to lie to my parents about. I know my family trusts me, and that makes me feel good. And it makes me feel good to know that my religion backs me up. When you feel you're doing what you think is right, well, that's kind of valuable to me.
As young people look at what's around them and think about their goals, we often see that their values reflect those of previous generations. As a matter of fact, by and large, people reach many of the same conclusions that have been reached for hundreds of years. There are good reasons behind most ethical and moral standards, and sooner or later, most people come to see those reasons.
When I think about some of my friends, I wonder if Kevin and I aren't missing a lot. But then I look at some of the ones I know who are having sex, and it seems to me that it's not always making them happy. There are a few girls who really are easy. I guess they think they're popular. Well, I know what the guys say about them, and I'd hate to have anybody talk about me that way. Of course, most of the kids aren't like that. Still, I know that Sally and Todd thought that having sex would make their relationship better. Well, I don't know if it made it any worse, but they seem to fight as much as they ever did. Something that bothers me about Sally and Todd is I always have the feeling that Sally wants everybody to know what's going on. Like she wants the whole school to say, "Did you hear about Sally and Todd?" Like a little kid screaming for attention. And then there's Eric. He goes with Margie now. He's real smart and popular. I used to date him, and I admit that I thought I was pretty lucky. But by the third date, he was really pressuring me for sex. He's the one who said I'd been teasing him, and no girl wants to be thought of as a tease. I remember how hurt he acted, like I couldn't care much about him. That's the closest I ever came to giving in. But then he started that, "How do you know you don't like it if you haven't tried it" stuff, and that turned me off. I mean, that's a real line, and it made me see that all the rest of it was a line too. I realized that if Eric really cared about me, he wouldn't pressure me to do something that was wrong for me. He was just concerned about what he wanted. Now I look at Eric and Margie, and I wonder sometimes what goes on with them, because I know Margie, and her values are a lot like mine. I hope she isn't doing anything she's going to feel really upset about. Oh, I don't mean everybody who's sleeping together is having a terrible time. That's silly. But I also know that everybody isn't perfectly fine either. You know, handling it real casually with no problems. And sure, I also see some couples who seem to be comfortable with having sex. But anyway, that's not the point. I can't look at everybody else. I can only know what I believe in, what makes me feel right. When I do finally marry, I think I'll be glad I behaved according to my own standards.
For Donna, who wishes to remain a virgin till she marries. For Paul, who is happy in a relationship that does not include intercourse. And for Vicky, for whom abstinence is proving to be a good choice for now. Saying no has proved to be a good option, the one they feel is best for them. In important ways, sexual decisions are exactly like other life decisions. They should be made in terms of what will best fill our individual needs, satisfy our own beliefs, allow us to control our own lives. You'll know a choice is right when it makes you feel good about yourself. And you'll know a choice is mature when you find you don't care whether or not it's the same choice everybody else is making. In making sexual decisions, in making any decisions, the important thing is always to know what's right for you. After all, as the saying goes, if I am not good for myself, then how can I be good for anybody else?